My friends, welcome back. Chaos Zero Nightmare is launching on the 22nd of October, which is, 4 days when I'm recording this video right now, so it's right around the corner. I was in the beta. I've been doing all sorts of research on the side because this isn't a game that really interests me, and I want to take that wisdom, that knowledge, I want to give it to you, so in the first couple of days of the game, you're getting the best start possible using the knowledge that I've gained for you. So if you like that, stick around. I don't know how many tips this is. We'll call it 5-ish. But I've got about 5 tips that I want to give you so that you are ready to go as this goes live. If that sounds good to you, like and sub for me, please. I'm trying to grow. And let's just dive right into it. So as we step in, I want to give a bit of a disclaimer, a couple disclaimers really. One, there will be changes from beta. Beta was an older build. We found that out. And the devs have given us some of the changes, but have also already told us that there's going to be a lot of rebalancing. There's going to be changes to cards, to some of the systems. And so what we played and what you'll see footage of in the background will have tweaks and differences as we go live, which is kind of exciting, obviously, because then we get some new nuance that we didn't have before. And some of it is from feedback that we gave that they are taking to heart, which is a beautiful thing to see. So know that anything that was beta related has been subject to change. Second of all, this is a gacha game. If you came here as a gacha veteran, feel free to go to the timestamps and skip over to tip number 1. But briefly, if you're new to gacha games, what that means is getting the game is free, but they monetize it by having a pull system to get characters. And unless you're spending a bunch of money, you're probably not going to get every character. Just get ready for that. And even if you do get all the characters by some ungodly pull luck, you aren't going to get the super amount of duplicates you need to get them to the highest level of their peak efficiency. And so you are basically either a big spender to get everything, you're free to play and you just take it as it comes, or you might be like a small to mid spender who throws a few bucks at it here and there and just enjoys it for what it is. But this is not a typical single player type game where you get everything throughout the course of the game. So if you've never played a gacha before, just be prepared for that, and we'll have other videos about that. All said, let's get into tip number 1. So tip number 1 is that this game does not have PvP, and as far as we know, it's not coming. And so you don't have to rush through this game. If you want to treat this as a side game, treat it as a side game. If you want to take this game and crush through it crazily fast, awesome. You're not really going to get any benefit from that. You're not going to get stronger than the person you're fighting. So, you're not getting that PvP kind of aspect where you need to be faster. But if that's your cup of tea, go for it. Or if you just want to take it slow, really digest the story. There's a lot of text in this game. It's going to take you a while to read it all unless you're a speed reader. You can do that. Not a big deal. Don't feel pressure to rush. And I'm kind of saying this because within my tip number 1, I'm going to tell you to rush. So I'm going to contradict myself a little bit right off the bat. But I want to let you know, you don't have to do this. Understand it's non-PvP. Just take it at the speed and leisure that you want. But with that, when I was in the beta, I realized, and this is common for gacha games, there's a few systems that unlock via the tutorial and by getting to certain ranks. And what do I mean by ranks? Well, there's things called captain ranks, and this is basically an account level. And so as you accumulate account XP by doing various things in the game, you unlock certain features, and that lets you get to certain points in the story. And then when you get past certain points in the story, you unlock more features. And so really the game, I would say, really kind of opens itself up around captain level 20 is kind of the first real push. I don't think you have to get quite all the way to 20 to do all this, but it is nice because these systems are then there. We don't know yet if the events will have certain limitations on captain rankings and levels, and there's some modes that weren't available that I believe take you to captain level 30 to open. But the ones that I think are very, very vital that you want to focus on right away, dailies. What are dailies? Dailies, very simply put, are a system where you have goals every single day. Again, this is common to gacha games and other types, where, if you beat so many monsters or complete so many stages or level so many characters, it's like a checklist. You get resources for the game. Predominantly, this is places where you can get pull currency for the game. So the sooner that you open this system up, the sooner you can complete your dailies, and the sooner you can start accumulating these resources. So I want to get dailies done, opened, and started right away. Also, you do have stamina in this game, so it's an energy resource that refills over time, and you have a limit on how much per day. And so that system has different modes, I think they call them simulations, where you can farm out things like character experience or breakthrough materials to, let your characters get to higher levels, or I don't know, materials for your partners, different kinds of systems. And you have to get to a certain point in the game for that to unlock. So again, this is the kind of thing I'm going to personally rush for because I want my stamina to be useful as quick as possible to get the most from using my daily stamina. I will at least log in and do my dailies and my stamina every single day. And so I want to start that hopefully on day one. Worst case, day two. It depends on how far we can get on day one. And then finally is a system called the Arc. This will tie into tip number 5, so stick around for that. But the Arc is a very vital system we'll talk about here in a bit. And that is, again, unlocked by doing tutorials and getting to certain rankings. So my strategy on day 1 into maybe day 2 or 3, I'm not going to do this for a long time, is I'm going to probably use the resources, the gems, to max refresh every single day until those systems I just mentioned are unlocked, as well as the chaos mode, which is a different mode that is the roguelike kind of feature of the game. So I'm going to push for those. Again, don't feel pressured. If you want to take it slower, take it slower. But if you are going to do anything to jumpstart your account, that is probably the most important thing to do. Spend a little bit of stamina refreshes, get yourself those systems unlocked because you can start accumulating those resources sooner. That's tip number 1. Tip number 2, this goes into the pulling system. So the pulling system is for characters. It's for your partners, which is another fancy way of saying weapons. Those use the same currency last I saw. I don't think they've changed that. And then there's another type of pull, which is a different currency. And it's basically for graphics, for motion graphics, for your cards, your basically the moves that your characters do. It goes from being a static image into a cool looking one. Far less important. It doesn't give you any power or anything like that. So we are getting 200 pulls. This was confirmed by the devs in the early game. We don't know exactly how, but I would venture a guess that it's going to be a mix of welcome mail. Probably, hey, you finished the tutorial, here's 10 pulls. Hey, you finished chapter 1, here's 30 pulls. It's going to be stuff like that, where you probably don't have to progress super incredibly far to get through the 200 pulls, but it's probably not going to be a mail item with 200 pulls on day 1, so I wouldn't expect that either. So you're going to have a decent bucket. So how would I treat the pulls? Well, understand there's a few banner types. Your first banner type is a beginner banner. A beginner banner is a discounted banner where, at least in beta, it was 8 instead of 10 pull currency to do a pull itself, right? And I think it went to 50 pulls and you were guaranteed to get a, super high level, rank 5, whatever, star, the top level character within the beginner banner. So you're basically getting a discounted, guaranteed rate up character. You can't decide which one it is, but you're going to get something good. So that banner is always going to be your first priority. Run it down, get your discounted legendary, see how that starts your account. And usually this is where you'll decide if you want to reroll or not. I'm probably not going to reroll unless I just do it once to make a guide for it. But I've gotten to the point with gacha games where I just take it what it gives me and I just move on with my life. I hate wasting 20 to 30 minutes in rerolling for each reroll, by the way. And so I will take what I get, but you could reroll after your beginner banner, burn your gems, see what you like. If you didn't get what you like, you just reroll and start again. But I would get through your beginner banner. And then there's going to be a limited unit character. So this is the limited time character. Now, what's cool is they mentioned in the last developer chat that the limited characters all will go to the standard banner. So underneath your limited, you have the just general pool of characters. You cannot target a specific character last we saw, but as somebody leaves the limited section, at some point in time, they'll go into the standard. They didn't specify if it was like the day after, or weeks after, or months after, but you will eventually have a chance to get them from just the regular banner as well. And so you get to choose, hey, I really love or want this limited banner. I'm going to guarantee I get this character by pulling hard into it until I hit the pity. Or I'm going to back off. If I get them, I get them. If I don't, I don't. And I'll get them in the standard banner. Hopefully, if luck is on my side eventually. So you do have ways to get them in the standard. Just understand that once it goes to standard, again, there's no way to target it. You could have bad luck and never pull that character. But there is a standard banner. I would not touch the standard banner unless they are giving you some sort of a resource that makes sense. So it's a different currency. It's a, maybe they have like in Persona 5X, for example, when you did 300 pulls, you got to pick a character. Just don't dump all of your limited resources into a standard character banner. That tends to be a bad idea. And then there's also on that partner banner, and this will tie into tip number 4, there is a partner system that we'll talk about. Don't use all of your gems on the characters. You're going to want to save some for your partners. And again, we'll cover that in tip 4, so stick around for that. So summing this up, be ready for 200 pulls. You probably have to play the game a little bit to get them all, but that's still cool. You're getting them. Burn down your beginner banner, take your discounted win, run with it, see what that does for your account. After you do that, do you want to reroll? Do you not want to reroll? Up to you. There's no right or wrong answer there. And then start thinking about how much do you want to invest these early pulls into limited banners or partner banners. That will take us right into number 3, our tip here. And as you are pulling for characters and you're looking at your roster, what is your goal? Are you trying to get every character? Well, I don't think you should. 1, I think it'll be expensive, but 2, the game does eventually get hard. Early game, super easy. You can auto battle with just about any single team and get through all the content. Honestly, it's what I did for the longest time. The early game is brain dead easy, honestly. But when you get to chaos mode, and I'm assuming this will be some of the other modes that they didn't unlock during beta, you eventually get to a difficulty point that the game does get hard. I wouldn't say it's unfairly hard, but you have to understand your skills. And more importantly, your team has to synergize, okay? You can't just rush it down in most cases with 3 DPS or, go in with no sorts of healing or shielding or things like that. So as you look at your roster, very early on, I want you to get in the habit of saying, who's doing my damage and how do I support that damage to the best effect? That will take us into your character classes. You're going to want to have characters that can heal. You're going to want to have characters that can shield. And you're going to want to have a good DPS, whatever run you're doing. For example, the first Chaos planet, I want to say had the fire affinity or the red affinity. And so I don't remember if it was green or blue, but one of the other affinity colors is the counter to that, will do more damage, will get you through it easier. In the very early levels, you can brute force that. In the harder levels, you're going to want to have the right elemental affinities. And so think about building rosters that let you do that. The good news is the 4 stars are really good in this game. So you can get 4 stars just by pulling naturally. You're going to get a bunch of these things. And so even if you don't have a full roster of 5-star units that are for every DPS, for every single, affinity, that's fine. Absolutely fine. Get your couple of legendaries, whatever, build around them, of course, but then be okay using your 4 stars. The way I would tell you to kind of prioritize your teams right now, at least for the early game, get yourself a good shielder. Somebody who can consistently put that shield buff on your characters. That goes a long way to help prevent you from going into trauma, from taking too much damage, etc. I would look at some sort of either turn manipulator or a card manipulator, I guess you could call it, or energy manipulator. So the way the game works, if you haven't seen it, is you have so many points of energy you can use on every single round. So I think it starts with maybe 5. Some characters can give you more. So they use a skill and it's like, oh, I'm going to get 1 or 2 more energy, which means you can play more cards. Other characters will do things like let you draw more cards or take cards out of the discard pile and put them back in your hand. And so they're manipulating cards. And those couple of things in card type games can be very, very powerful because you can kind of force your hand a certain way and get yourself more abilities to use that otherwise you'd have to wait for like a deck reshuffle for. So if you've got someone who is manipulating your energy, or I think they call them action points, but manipulating your points you can use each round and or manipulating your deck, that can really change the tides of battle. So I would focus on those kinds of characters. And again, the shielders, healers, sometimes the shielders also do heals. Other characters can do heals. Partners can sometimes do heals. Make sure you've got your kind of defensive and control basis done. And then bring your DPS. That's good for the element. Again, you can use 4 stars. That's how I'm going to build it. And I'm going to focus on probably roughly 4 supports. It doesn't matter as much the affinity for me on those. It'll be nice to have some wide coverage, but a good shielder is a good shielder, regardless of what affinity they are. And then I'm going to get a couple of DPSs. And I think it's kind of going to amount to about 2 teams that I'm going to focus on early game. And the reason you want to focus this down is because the resources to build your units, at least in beta, were kind of scarce. So they might have readjusted that for the launch. I hope they really did. But there was no way that even by level 20, you could have built your whole roster. It just, unless you were somehow, stamina refreshing to the max and burning all that on leveling your characters, and that's just not sustainable. you just really couldn't do it. And so you're going to want to really put effort into some key characters that you feel you're going to use a lot, because then you can really get them strong enough to go through like the chaos modes and do these battles. So pick your roster. Once you have a roster you're happy with, stop pulling. Just stop pulling. Save your currency. There's going to be new limited time characters that come out that you're going to want to pull. Don't burn it all in your first couple of days. Build a good synergistic team for hard content. Tip 4, alluded to this earlier, partners. Okay, partners are your weapons. They're their own characters, but they don't have their own cards and things like that, and they attach to your character like a weapon would. And these, first of all, give you a stat increase. Stat increases are always good in games. And if you match the class type, they give you a special bonus. So, for example, if you have a hunter and you equip a hunter partner, you get an additional, some sort of an ability, flavor text, whatever, and it's going to do something special for that character. Some are more synergistic to some characters than others. But what's important here is that you don't ignore it, because if you do, you're leaving flat stats off the table, things that just naturally make you stronger, take more damage, etc. And you're leaving off entire abilities for your kit. There were some that did stuff like enhance your follow-up damage by a key amount, which would be good for like a Hugo, I think was his name, the wolf guy that I was using. So, look at these partners, look at their abilities, find the ones that match your character that you're building for, their particular class type, and really think through how can that partner help that character, is their synergy ability really doing what they want to do? So look at them, but that also means that you're going to want some currency saved to pull partners. What I found is it was good to kind of go for a character on the character banners, get a good 5-star, and then start investing into the partners. Now, they did show systems where you could get currencies to get partners over time, but again, they didn't go into any details on how much you amass this currency. Is it enough to get one a week? I don't know. Is it enough to get one a month? I don't know. And so until we see that kind of currency economy, I would still say dump a couple out there, get a couple good partners to start with, and then build your teams of good units plus good partners. And that's going to take you a very long way. And then just focus on leveling them up. Your partners also need to level up with XP and breakthrough materials. So again, it's not just your characters now that you have to level. You also have to level your partners, and there's a lot of them. Hence why I told you the resources die down quickly in this game. So focus on your partners. Do not ignore them. It will be a huge detriment to your account if you don't have good partners. Our final tip, tip number 5, mentioned it earlier, Ark. Ark is your kind of city spaceship that you live on in between missions. Like I said, I'm going to rush it down and open that up as soon as possible. And the Ark has a few very important things that you need to be doing all the time. The first one is every single day, you're going to get refreshes on affinity. Affinity is like these, I think it was 3 a day in the beta, maybe it'll be different on launch, but it was to be used with either building affinity conversations. So you can go and talk to one of your characters and they get hearts and they get more stats and they open up conversations. You're going to want to do those for the characters that you're leveling because it gives them more stats. And it's used for the trauma modes. So while you're in battle, you can go into trauma. In trauma, there's 2 ways you can get rid of it. One is paying the in-game currency, so like gold or whatever, and that erases your save data, which is basically your character loadout that you got from Chaos, but cleans them right away. Or you can go the other way and use one of these 3 ticket things, and you can go through like a counseling session, and you unlock certain dialogue, certain achievements, so you're going to want to do this over time anyways, and it gives you the character back without trauma, and they give you, like I said, these different achievements. So that's another way you can do it. But again, you're using this limited resource. You can also, kind of like my parents did in the 80s, put you into deep trauma. So forget healing your trauma. We're going to make it worse. And there's actually difficulty modes that want you in deep trauma. We haven't seen much around this. We don't know all the intricate details. But to my understanding, this is where you can get like some of the absolute best cards in the game for your loadouts and better gear and equipment. So there are times where you're going to have to say, hey, sorry, my friend, I don't want to heal you. I want you to suffer so that I can get good gear. I don't know. So yeah, that's a kind of fun mechanic. But that's one of the systems. Another system in the Ark is every day you can get energy for free. So once per day, you can either get an item. It's like a little vial. and it gives you, I think it's 60 stamina. They could change this, of course, and you can hold up to 4. So this is the, I don't have time to play, but I want to get this. Maybe I'm just logging in for the morning. I can't play today. You get your item, you walk away. Otherwise, you can drink your coffee right away and you get 80. So you get more stamina. So it's kind of like I can get more because I have time to play, or I can't. So I'm going to take this item and I'll use it tomorrow or the next day or whatever it is. So get your coffee every single day, whatever. Then before battles, there is a cafe that you can go to and you basically buy a food buff. There's all sorts of different ones. I'm not going to walk through them all. But before you go into your hard battles, just stop in the Ark, get yourself a food buff, get stronger before you go into your battles. And then there is a skill tree, sort of a thing on the Ark. And by leveling it up, you open up different benefits for the Ark or your characters. And you get these by doing these policy things, I think they're called. And so policies refill every few hours. And it's basically a choice. You got like a couple choices. And if I click on this one, I get points in this area, I lose points in that area, or I click on this one, it's different points, whatever. But by doing that, you're getting items as well. And these items are used in a shop. And in that shop, you can get things like increasing your policies, or you get a couple extra ones, you can get some pull currency. And then by doing all these activities, you can upgrade your skill tree. And like some of the earlier nodes were things like, now I can have 4 policies instead of 3, or my policies refresh faster. And so right away with your Ark, you want to focus down anything that gives you more policies or reduces the time for your policies or gives you better quality policies. Your policies will have that compounding effect of, by having them, they're going to help your systems run smoother. So tip number 5, don't ignore the Ark. It's super, super important. And you're going to want to get in there the second you open it and do it every single day. Every few hours when it refreshes, pop on, run your policies, move on with your day. It takes like 30 seconds. It's super, super fast. So there you have it, my friends. I'm going to call that 5 tips. I didn't really count them, but I think that was 5. I hope that helps you get the best start possible. Again, this is coming off of beta. Things will change. By the way, bonus tip, tier lists are outdated. They're making a bunch of character changes. I would be very hesitant to use any tier list that exists today. Give the game a few days to come out so we can see what the new cards are. Once we understand the card changes, our tier list will change, which is why you're not going to see one from me for a couple weeks. But let us have some time to study that. Don't go trying to reroll for a certain character and then they got completely changed and you paid your account for it. But the game comes out in 4 days. Until our next video or live stream, my friends, please take care of yourselves.